It's not like there's no room for deadlines at all. So I'm going to come at that question backwards, and I'm going to say, if you're going to try to impose deadlines at all, so I'm sort of starting from the back, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to use deadlines, then you need to be aware that meeting a deadline is a different skill than being able to explain why all corresponding angles are congruent. And so if you want them to both explain why all corresponding angles are congruent and meet a deadline, well, then you better be teaching them how to do both of those things. And I think a lot of teachers are like, well, that's just the way school works. No, for students, for them to explain why corresponding angles are congruent, I'm just reading the chart, right? That might take them a long, and it's not clear how long it would take you. And so a deadline is a very artificial way of saying, well, I can explain why corresponding angles are congruent within a week and a half. Like that's sort of arbitrary. Why a week and a half? Why not 2 days or not 20? I don't know. So if you're going to use deadlines, at the very least, you've got to front load this and explain to your students, this is part of what we're learning. And frankly, I would write it in the target. I'd say, not only are we learning how to do this, this, and this, we're also learning how to meet deadlines. And that could be one of the things we're learning how to do. But that might be outside of your field. You might not feel competent or even interested in wanting to teach people how to meet deadlines, in which case, don't do it, right? And then things get really hard, right? And so what you do is you say, okay, in mathematics, there's a natural kind of deadline because we need some material to go forward. You can't go on and use geometry if you don't know what transversals are. We're going to use them all year. And so at some point, it's very clear to students, like, you want to know this because if you don't know it, you're going to feel further and further behind. Your life is going to get harder and harder. And so I don't want to tell you what day you have to learn it on, but we're all going to have learned this eventually. And if you're not with us, then you're going to feel bad and you're going to feel lost, and you don't want to feel that way, right? Mm-hmm. So trying to come up with a more natural kind of deadline, something I've said to my colleagues over and over again about deadlines, and I really believe this to my core. In the real world, deadlines are flexible. I mean, I'm sorry, but my wife works in logistics where timing is everything. Like in logistics, she's moving freight from China to to the U.S. and wherever. She's got deadlines. She's got 100 deadlines a day, and all of them are flexible. Well, except some, right? Except one, right? There's one. You can't miss that one. But it's her to decide. Of the 100 deadlines she has to meet, there's only one that really matters. And then there's the other 99 that, well, if you miss it, they'll get a little mad, and you can always smooth it over. This one doesn't matter at all because they're perfectly comfortable, right? So in the real world, people are making decisions about how prioritizing deadlines. And so we should invite our students to do that and say, so I talk to my own advisees this way. I'm like, look, let's figure out what the most pressing concern is. What do you need to know right now so that you can move forward? Like, it may not be your math. Like, your math may be low back on the burner. You're doing fine. You've got extra wiggle room at the end of this. Let's work on your English now because you need to move on to the next level in there. So prioritize your deadlines. Like, look at the things that you need and then put your energy where it belongs. So I don't know if that answers the questions about deadlines exactly, but certainly, well, I guess I'd put it this way. I think that the old chestnut, right, in the real world, people follow deadlines, is simply false. I just don't think I think we say that. I think teachers say that because teachers like deadlines. I think teachers like deadlines because they like to get their grading done so they can go home and enjoy their weekend. And I do too, but that's not the real world. That's school. In school, deadlines matter for teachers, not for students, right? Teachers and then since we all went to school, we all say, well, but in the real world, you must have deadlines. But the truth is, you should talk to some people in the real world. And I think you'll find that deadlines are really a question of prioritization.